For those who might be interested, I built ramps similar to these older ones over there, but I built some newer ramps to demonstrate how to build them. The ones over there I've used for many years. I really like them. They give you a little more height than the average, say like this plastic ramp, and some of the low metal ones that you can just purchase perhaps at your local box store. These ramps I like because they're two-piece. Once you drive your car up here, you can see at the end of the video, you can pull this right out. Got a little slot in here, so that's easy to pull. Once the car is up there, easy to get it out of the way. Also, it's easier to store them. It is a pretty heavy unit as a whole, but if you break it down into two pieces, you can find a way to store them easily. The other thing about it is once they interlock with each other, and they interlock with a piece of aluminum angle, and once you drop them in place and they interlock together, they act as a single unit. You can pick it up, slide it back, line it up with your tire, and they won't come apart. I usually come in and just get it close. Then I'll come out and line it up straight. I don't care if the spread's off, I just line them up afterwards. Of course, if you got a helper, you can pull in and just line them up for them. You can just get this one right out of the way. To make these ramps, what you're going to need is one 2x10 by 8 foot long. You're going to need a piece of plywood. I use a 3/4 here, and I ripped it down to 11.5. It's also 8 foot long. So basically, to do 2 ramps, you will need double this, and that ends up using pretty much a half sheet of plywood. The dimensions I'm going to cut this 2x10 out is I need 139 inch, 126 inch, and 3 10 inches, which if you notice adds up to 95 inches. So basically it just kind of uses up the whole shooting match here. Obviously your kerf cuts will add a little bit. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and cut this, and I'll cut this. I need 2 26-inch long pieces, by the way, to match. If you notice that 26, I need 2 26-inch pieces out of the plywood, and I'm going to cut the other side here 26. Then that leaves this piece of plywood here for your angle cuts for your actual ramp portion of this assembly. I'm not going to bore you with my cutting techniques, but in my case here, I got a miter saw and a bench set up. I also have like a stop that can lock into place. So instead of measuring the dimensions, for instance, if I need a 39-inch piece, I'll just lock this in here to 39, and as long as everything is cut the same on both ramps, because this could be off a 1/16 or so, but not much to worry about. And also, I might mention, this is what I call a flip-flop stop. I really like it. I have a video on it if you decide you want to try to locate that and we're interested in it. So I've got my all my pieces cut, 39, 26, my 10s, another 10 over there, and my 2 26-inch pieces of plywood. And what I want to do without making this too complicated, first of all, let me mention that I'm using 1/8 inch angle, 1.5 inch legs on it. And if you recall, these act as an interlocking device to to keep the ramps together, the ramp portion and the platform. But what I did was, since this will be up here, and you'll have your 26-inch piece going across the top, I should say. I cut this one here 1 inch shorter. It was 10 inches. I just cut all 3 10 inches. Came back and cut this 1/8 inch shorter so that when I put this angle on here, as you can see, it makes this come out to be approximately the same as that other 10-inch piece. And what I do is on this, I come up with a 1/4 inch piece of wood. I shoot for 1/4. You could go a little less, but you don't want it too tight when they interlock. Otherwise, they're hard to get in and out of place. 1/4 inch seems to work really nice. If you don't have a piece of 1/4 inch of something, I just rip this out of some pine to make it easy to do. And then I'll put this right here in between there. And you can also, I guess I gotta make sure you can see this. Try that. Just to hold it in place, I'll put a clamp in here and kind of holds that together. And then, what you can do then, of course, you can tap this left or right to even it up both sides. Now, I went ahead and after I did this, I went to my drill press, although you don't need a drill press. I drilled 4 holes with, I'm not sure what size drill it is, but it's a little bigger than an 8. And this angle is an old piece, so it had some other holes in here. So my new holes are marked where my screws are going to go. And then I did this just so I know I'm, if I flipped it around, they would never match up. I like to put those pilot holes in there so that when I countersink these out, sometimes when you countersink out a piece of metal like this thin, to get it deep enough to give your flat head screws more or less flush, it opens up a bigger hole here. That's okay. It'll still hold this down good. The only thing is that if you do all this first and then you drill in your screw, sometimes it moves this around on you. So with the pilot hole here and into the wood, it'll all match up, even though I end up with a little big hole there. Now, I won't really go into detail, but what I use for a countersink is you can do whatever you want, but I happen to have, well, I thought I had it right here. I don't see it at the moment, but I got another one right over here. And as you can see, that's what I use. And well, I got bigger ones there. So I'll countersink these and then I'll show you what I got and screw it on here. And then from there, it's fairly simple. All right, I got this all set up here and I already did a couple just to give you an idea. So it goes pretty good on aluminum. Cuts nice and easy. And I try to go deep enough to get my screws somehow flush, at least almost flush. So that's the countersinks on there. Okay, what I'm going to do now is I'll screw this aluminum angle onto this board. Now, since I did those pilot holes, I also got them into the wood. I didn't have to go too deep into this wood, but you can see. And these all match up, and I'm glad I did that, because if you didn't have that there, you wouldn't know which side to go on. That kind of eliminates that being a mistake. So I don't really need to clamp this together because these holes are all going to line up. I got 1 5/8" deck screws is what I'm using. And you don't have to use deck screws, but I have a lot of them around. Uniform, hopefully. So now I got that, and you can see I got my nice 1/4" uniform space, because when you do your ramp, another piece is going to interlock in there. Now if you notice, you got play, so you're not fighting it. It'll go in real nice and easy, and you're better off with, that kind of play rather than being too tight. Well, unfortunately, I didn't have my camera on, but that's not a big deal. You can see my angle aluminum here. Remember, I cut this an 1/8" short, so this matches that other side. What I did was I put this up here, and I'm going to screw these 2 1/2" deck screws in once it's all flushed up nice. By the way, I pre-drilled these 4 holes on both sides, just enough to go through this top piece. Sometimes you don't really need to do that, but just to keep them splitting this close to the end here. So you notice that, now that one didn't countersink real good. Most of them, they'll go past pretty much that's okay. You could always put in just a 3" screw in there and take it down further if you wanted to, or do whatever you want to countersink it. So I got this all set and ready for the plywood. I got my 26" long piece of plywood here, and I'm going to use a coil nailer, 2" nails. The kind of important thing to do is on this aluminum piece, let it be the bottom. And what I mean by that is you get something flat and bring this all the way over so that this is flush with that. That way all this will be sitting on your concrete floor or whatever you happen to be using it on. And I'll also flush it right there. Flush here. And if you forget about nailing the top, because once you nail that, you can't, ever get that flush again. So you put a nail there, and then if you want, you can square this off here, pretty square right this moment. So I'll go ahead and I can shoot that right up. Now, as you know, whenever you put something like this together, it doesn't always come out square, but you can square it up because the only thing is locked in is over here. So I can move this way, that way. But what I want to do is get it flush right here on the bottom again. And at the same time, if this was in or out, you could still move that a little. So, like I said, I'm not perfectly flush there, but if I force it out, I'm pretty flush there and there. And like I said, you can move that around usually. So if it's not flush here, there's nothing you can do about it. You can just sand it off later or whatever. But it's all come out pretty decent. Usually I'm wearing an ear muffs when I'm doing this, or hearing protection. So that basically ties that all in. And now, of course, I would do this side with my 26" plywood. Same thing. I'll start over here where the metal is and, you know, come flush with the bottom of the metal. Just like that. And flush this way with the wood. Don't have to be. I got to pound that down. So this is done. The only thing that's really not done is I got to put a 2x4 here with a handle. Just like that. This one here is my other one. So I'm gonna, this happened to have 4 screws. The other handle over there only had 2. I'm gonna put 4 3-inch screws into this. And that'll hold that 2x4 and the handle all in place. I won't have to really put any more screws in this. Now if you take your 39-inch piece and cut a bevel 15 degrees, try to leave as much as this as you can. So I'm going to cut it back this way. And I got my miter saw set up for 15 degrees. If you don't have that capability, you can set your skill saw 15 degrees and do it that way. You also want to take your last 10-inch piece and cut a bevel on that. Now if you end up cutting this a little bit too much off, it's not critical because this ends up a little shorter anyway. We'll see in a minute. So we'll cut that at Let me see if I can explain to you how to determine how long to make this. I got the interlocking piece there for now. If I set that on top of there, obviously this is going to be way too high. This is a 15-degree angle. But when this comes up here, you'll notice that, okay, we're way high. So how to determine how long to make this piece, and what you can do is do it your way or my way, but right where this 2 pieces come together, if you make a mark, then go down another 3/8 roughly, make another mark, and that'll be the length that you want to make this. Now you could cut another bevel here and do it that way. Now you'll notice that I got that length, and if you notice, we got like about 3/8 below this little mark here, and someone would probably say, well, that's too much, because when I put this up here, we got 3/8 there, but I really did that intentionally because I want there to be, when this comes out like that, I want there to be a gap down here of some sort. It doesn't have to be 3/8, it could be 1/4, but I just went with that. And so when this ramp is built and resting on the floor, once it's built, you'll have a 3/8 gap down here. So the pressure of this ramp is not depending upon that. If, for instance, if this was up a hair in the air, all this force would be on that piece of aluminum, possibly pull the screws out of it. I just want this to work as an interlocking device, so I don't want there to be pressure there. I want there to be some relief or a gap down where the 2 meet. So that's good, that's about right, and you can do it pretty much any way you want to come up with how long to cut this piece. I've got the angle screwed on here now, flush on this side, As you probably remember, this is the angle. What I'm going to do to make it sort of easy for me, I'll put a couple screws through here. I drilled a couple holes, and I'll bring this top edge of this bevel right to the where it splits off there between those two pieces. Try to get it as accurate as I can. That's pretty good there. If I can put this one without moving it. This will be like temporarily held in place. Oh, that looks good. Now what's going to happen probably is when I put this on, it may go a hair over that because of the bevel situation. But we'll see, and if it does, it's no big deal because actually it comes out pretty decent right there, as you can see. So what I want to do now is screw this to that. Now this is held in place. That helps us out a lot because I will unscrew that later. But now I'll hose it together. I'll just go flush here, tight here. I'll pre-drill it and put some 3-inch deck screws in there. I've got this screwed to that. I wanted to mention that when you're assembling these two pieces, it's good to have a fairly straight bench top or something to lay it on. Because if it went like, you know, if it was like this, sitting on something like that or like that, it's going to throw everything off. But as long as you got a halfway straight surface to put this on and assemble it, you'll be good. If you notice, I got my gap down there, a good 3/8 it looks like. That can be like, you know, 1/4 inch. It doesn't have to be critical. It can be whatever you want it to be. I just don't like it having to actually bottoming out, I guess I should say. Now, I don't know if you remember the extra piece of plywood that we ended up with out of that 8-foot strip. What I do now is, if I can get my camera close enough, I'll just take that strip, lay it right. All this is locked together, those two screws, which really help out. So you bring that right up tight, and all you're going to do is just draw your scribe line, maybe one down here at the bottom like that. And then cut that out, square it off here. Don't shorten this, leave that piece long, and you can flip it over and get the other side out of it. I'll go ahead and cut those two pieces. You can either freehand it with a skill saw. I'm going to just eyeball it through a table saw. I don't feel like cutting it with a skill saw right now. It doesn't have to be absolute perfect, so I'll just freehand it through a table saw. I cut that, and as you can see, it came out pretty good. Just kind of like freehanding it. It's a little high here, but I don't care. I can hit that with a belt sander if I want to. Or leave it if you wouldn't probably hurt anything. Now the other piece that came off of that, leftover piece, if you notice, it just about gives you enough for the other side. You can see where this was my the edge of that piece. So what I'll do is, if I want to make this a little better, is scribe this down and make a little mark here, and I'll just skim that off. don't know if you can see that. And we'll be good on those two. It's just right in that area with the table saw. And then anyway, once these two are done, I'm going to shoot it with my coil nailer, 2-inch nails, all the way down like this, both sides, and then flip it over, take those two screws out, and that side will be pretty much done. Everything will be the right configuration. It'll drop in down here. Once you get all this plywood on, on both sides, and then of course you want to unscrew this piece here where we had it locked into this, just to make it easier to assemble this. After that, you can flip this over, and you can separate this. And what else the other thing I do to wrap this up is I drill a couple of holes, one on each side, and that's so that when you're on the ground and then want to raise this up to lock it into this one, you have somewhere to grab hold of it. The other thing I do is I add a little support right in here. So I'll cut a 15-degree angle like that. Then I'll put that in here and then scribe a mark right under here. Do another one up here, and then cut those to size. Now I already did that, so here's my two pieces. There's one nice and flush, and then I got the other one up here and right flush there, nice and flush right here. So I'll screw those in. I got one here that's already done. Not too bright over here, but see if I can get this over here. That one's done. I put like 3 screws right here to lock that in. The only reason I do that is because this piece here doesn't actually rest on anything. Remember, we got a gap down here. So this adds some support to this ramp as it's pushing down, and that really will make it more structurally sound. Probably wouldn't go anywhere if you didn't do that, but I just like to, I feel better doing it. And then I also put a little piece down here, can kind of go anywhere you want it. And that's just so you can pick this thing up, you know, and carry it. I'm trying to. I got these ramps all done, and I made a little change here, or addition. I put a slot in here. As I mentioned before, those little holes were to help you lift it into place over here, and you can do that, but I found this is so much easier. You know, you get both of your pieces down there, it's just so much easier to grab that like that. So I went ahead and did that. My older, if you need to come in under here, you can actually scoot through there on a creeper, barely, but you can just get this one right out of the way. What I do sometimes is, if I'm pulling a tire off or working on the brakes, instead of being on the ground, I'll go ahead and put on the ramp. Then I'll come in here with a floor jack, and hope that camera come in with a floor jack and jack off of the control arm or a frame, and you don't have to jack very high. Pull the tire off, and you know, I can almost sit on a chair and work on the brakes. This, at that point in time, you could get it right out of your way if you need to, because sometimes you're working on a tie rod end or something like that, and you might not want that there. Comes in handy, obviously, if you're on a floor jack, you want to put like a jack stand under here, but a lot of times you can actually take this and either move it back or twist it sideways and move it back till it hits on the unibody, and that gives you a quick, easy safety backup